Hello everyone, I am Simran Kaur, your science teacher from Shiv Jyoti Educational Group. Now it's day to revise chapter 11, force and pressure. So open your books and come to page number 131. These are few important points. Force, what is force? Force is a push or pull that can change the speed, direction, shape of an object. Force always happens when there is interaction between two objects. If there is no interaction between objects, then there will be no force. And force can change the speed, the direction of the moving object and the shape of an object. SI unit of force is Newton. Newton is the standard unit, and what is the unit in CGS system? That is Dan, D-Y-E-N-E, Dan. And as you all know that force is a vector quantity. Force has magnitude as well as direction. Then kinds of forces, there are two types of forces, contact force and non-contact force. Contact force are the forces in which physical contact is must. There should be touching, there should be physical contact between two objects. That type of force is contact force. Example, muscular force, in which the force is acted by using our muscles. Then mechanical force, by using machines. And frictional force, this is the opposing force which opposes the motion of any object. Then non-contact force, in this no interaction means no physical contact is required. This force acts between the spaces, it acts through the spaces present between two objects. Like gravitational force, this is an attractive force. Any two objects in the world, in the universe, they are capable of attracting each other, that is gravitational force. Then magnetic force, in which magnets can attract magnetic objects. Then electrostatic force, it is force between charged and uncharged object or between two charged objects, like okay, we will discuss it later. Then nuclear force is again non-contact force in which the particles of an atom attract each other. The next term is pressure. What is pressure? Pressure is the force acting per unit area. If we, along with force, if we include area, then a new term comes pressure. Means on how much area we are applying force, that is pressure. And SI unit of pressure is Pascal. Then pressure exerted on an object by the weight of air above it is known as atmospheric pressure. Now what is atmospheric pressure? As we all know that the air around us, that also has some weight, and that weight of air is applying some force on the objects which is present on the earth's surface. So that force of air on per unit area is known as atmospheric pressure. Now internal question, this question 1 on page 132. What is the relation between 1 Newton and Dan? Both are the units of force. Newton is, N is Newton's standard unit of force, and Dan is the unit in CGS system. So 1 Newton is equal to 10 raised to the power 5 Dans. Next internal question on page 137, question 2. What do you mean by electrostatic force? The force exerted by a charged body on another charged or uncharged body is called electrostatic force. It can come into act when we rub two objects. By rubbing we can, okay, now there are two types of body, charged body or uncharged body. There are two types of charges, positive charge and negative charge. If we bring any charged body closer to the uncharged body, then there will be force of attraction. These two objects, these two bodies will attract each other. If we will bring one positively charged body closer to the other negatively charged body, then again there will be force of attraction. Here, if negatively charged body comes closer to the positively charged body, then again there will be force of attraction, this electrostatic force. We are discussing electrostatic force, non-contact force. Now, but if we will bring positively charged body closer to the positively charged body, then there will be repulsion. Same goes with negatively charged bodies. Then there will be repulsion between these two bodies. So, got it? What is electrostatic force? Force present between any charged and uncharged body or between two charged bodies. Next question on page 137, define gravity. Gravity, it is an attractive force with which an object pulls the other. Then next on page 138, write the formula of pressure. Pressure is equals to force divided by area, force acting per unit area. And during the descriptive video of this chapter, I told you that pressure is directly proportional to force and it is inversely proportional to area. Okay? This is your copy work. Question 1. What is meant by the term atmospheric pressure? As we discussed in points to remember, atmospheric pressure is defined as the pressure exerted on an object by the weight of the air above it. Then question 2. Give 2 examples of situations in which applied force causes change in the shape of an object. 2 real life examples are: first, making of bread from dough. In that at your home you can see dough, we make chapatis out of it. So, we are applying pressure, we are applying force. Then stretching of a rubber band, if you will apply force and you will stretch rubber band, then again there will be change in the shape of rubber band. Next question, what is force? Give its SI unit. A force is a push or pull that can change the speed, direction or shape of the body. An SI unit of force is Newton. Then give 2 examples of each of situations in which you push or pull to change the state of motion of objects. Push, while pushing, where we can see pushing, to close a drawer, to close something we apply force in that direction, in opposite direction, that is pushing. Then to move a wooden box on floor, again we need to push that wooden box. And while pulling, to open a drawer, when we have to open any drawer, then we have to pull it. Then a horse pulling a cart, that is again state of motion, change in state of motion. Then what are contact and non-contact forces? Give 1 example of each. Contact force, force which is applied on an object via physical contact. Touching is required, is called contact force. Example is frictional force. In non-contact force, force which can be applied on an object without any physical contact is called non-contact force. It can act through the space present between objects. Example is gravitational force. That is why everything falls down on the earth. Name the various types of forces, classify them as the contact force and non-contact force. You have to mention all types of forces which we discussed in this chapter. Here is the list: muscular force applied by our muscles. If you are lifting any bucket, then you are applying this muscular force. Then mechanical force, if you are driving any car, then that force is mechanical force. Gravitational force, magnetic force, electrostatic force, frictional force and nuclear force. Now you have to categorize them into contact and non-contact force. So here is the classification of forces based on the kind of force, whether it is contact or non-contact. So these forces come in the category of contact force, muscular, mechanical and frictional, whereas non-contact, gravitational, electrostatic, magnetic and nuclear force. Then 7th question, an inflated balloon was pressed against a wall after it has been rubbed with a piece of synthetic cloth. It was found that the balloon sticks to the wall. Now, whenever you read this type of question, always break it and then read it. So, we will read it till here. You have seen, might be you have applied it also. What happens when we rub balloon to our head? When we rub balloon with a hair to our head, then it will stick to the wall. So, why it is sticking? Are we having any Fevicol on our hair? No. So, when we rub, which force come into play? Electrostatic force, because we are rubbing two objects, and because of that rubbing between two objects, body is getting charged and there is force of attraction between charged and uncharged body. So, it was found that the balloon sticks to the wall. What force might be responsible for the attraction between the balloon and the wall? So, after rubbing, wait. Initially, this was balloon sorry, and this is, let us say, wall. This balloon will not stick to this wall, but now this is balloon, and with this synthetic cloth, this is piece of cloth, synthetic cloth, we are rubbing this balloon. Initially, this balloon was uncharged, but as soon as we rub this cloth to this balloon is getting charged. Now, this wall, in both cases, this wall is uncharged body. So, can you tell me in which case this wall will attract this balloon? Obviously, in this case, because here one body is charged and one body is uncharged. So, that is why this balloon sticks to this wall. Now, read answer. After rubbing the inflated balloon with a synthetic cloth, the balloon acquires a certain charge and thus sticks to the wall because of strong electrostatic force. There is electrostatic force. It is not that if any objects are attracting each other, so it will be magnetic force. No. By rubbing, we are generating which force? Electrostatic force between the balloon and the wall. Got it? Then describe a simple experiment to demonstrate the magnetic force. Now, in this question you have to demonstrate magnetic force. How you can demonstrate it? For demonstrating the magnetic force, we have some iron fillings in box and bar magnet. When we place a bar magnet in that box, we observe that iron fillings are attracted by the magnet because of magnetic force. Now, here we are talking about magnetic force. So, we are using two objects, one is magnet and the other one is magnetic object, iron fillings. So, that bar magnet will attract this magnetic object, iron fillings, and that is how we are demonstrating magnetic force. This is your box. In this box, so many iron fillings are present, and it will act as magnetic object, and this is bar magnet. So, when you will bring this bar magnet closer to these iron fillings, so you will observe that these iron fillings will get attracted to this bar magnet. It will look like this. So, which force is acting between these two objects? Magnetic force, because we are making use of magnet. Then name the forces acting on a plastic bucket containing water held above ground level in your hand. Discuss why the forces acting on the bucket do not bring a change in its state of motion. First, understand the question, what has been asked in this question. It is being told that this is floor, okay. This is floor and this is bucket, and this bucket contains water. Now this is, let's say this is your hand. You are holding this bucket above the ground level. So it is, what are they asking us, that why there is no change in state of motion? If you are holding this bucket in this state, in this position, it will be like this. So what forces are acting on this bucket? There are two forces which are acting on this bucket. First is muscular force, which has been applied by using the hands. So this here, which force is present? Muscular force applied by our hand, and below here there will be force of gravity. Force of gravity or gravitational force. Now can you look and tell me that in which direction these two forces are applied? Muscular force, as we are lifting it up. So we are applying this force in which direction? We are applying it in upward direction. Okay. And this force of gravity, which has been applied by whom? By the earth. So it will be in which direction? It will be at downward. So these two forces will cancel out their effect. Okay. As we know that when force are applied in opposite direction, then the resultant force is the difference between the two forces. So they will cancel out their effect and our bucket will remain like this, in this position. So in this case, muscular force is acting in upward direction, as we discussed, muscular force in upward direction, and the force of gravity is acting in downward direction. Okay, muscular force in upward direction and force of gravity in downward direction. Both forces are acting in opposite direction. You can see the direction of these arrows, both are acting in opposite direction. Hence, they nullify the effect of each other. Nullify means they are cancelling out the effect. Due to this, there is no change in the state of motion of the bucket. So that was all about chapter 11.